Hi, my name is Jim Green and I'm a gunsmith. The name of my shop is GunWorks in the town of Harrington, Maine. Today's video, I'm going to show you the process I went through to build a little buffalo rifle. Now, by saying little buffalo rifle, that's a little bit of an understatement. What I've done here is I've taken an old Remington Rolling Block that was originally chambered for 7mm Mauser. Looked like somebody had been paddling a canoe with it. So I go through the process of tearing that rifle down and rebuilding it into the rifle you see today. At the end of the video, we're going to shoot it out here today at the range. Hope you like the video. Now, to give you an idea of what this rifle used to shoot, it used to be chambered for a smokeless cartridge called 7x57mm Mauser. This is an old 1902 smokeless action that looked like somebody had been paddling a war canoe with it. And you'll see in the pictures in the video how rough it looked. To give you an idea now what it's chambered for, is 50-110 Winchester. What I have here is a cast 500 grain cast bullet with 103 grains of powder in the cartridge. Or I can shoot a 600 grain cast bullet with 98 grains of powder in the cartridge. Now, these are some of the steps that I took to rebuild a Remington Rolling Block rifle into a classic single shot hunting rifle. This picture here, you can see what I started off with. Doesn't look like much, does it? This is actually a model 1902 smokeless carbine, a saddle ring carbine to be exact. This is the condition that came in my shop. Here you can see where I just started the tear down. If you take a good careful look at the picture, you'll see there's a lot of rust and a lot of pits in this thing. This picture right here shows my barrel vise. This is how I remove barrels from actions. Pretty straightforward. And in this picture here, you can see now the action has been stripped down, the barrel's been removed, and all the internal parts have come out. Looks like a lot of rust busting has to go on here. And once all the rust has been removed, everything's been polished and cleaned up, and the action has been engraved, this picture here, you'll see I'm starting the color case hardening process. There were so many small pits in the rifle that I decided that having it engraved before I had a chance to get it color case hardened would hide a lot of the flaws and the defects in the pits. This picture here, you can see, well, I decided to go ahead and quench the bucket indoors. It was pretty cold that day, so I didn't want to be outside. And here I am fishing the action out of the bucket of the quench. And here you see after everything's been cleaned up. Now, the color case hardening makes the entire receiver a nice mottled color of blue, but since I wanted the engraving to stand out a little bit, I took a nice flat block and some 400 grit sandpaper and very lightly buffed over the surface of the engraving to make it shiny again and help it stand out. This picture here shows you the top of the receiver ring and the detail of the engraving up there and some of the color case hardening. Now here's the entire action after it's all been reassembled and ready to go. Now if you'll notice, all the screws and the screw heads, the receiver pins, the hammer, and the block and everything have all been niter salt blued. That's what that really bright, beautiful, fiery peacock color is. So next I decided, well, it's time to make the barrel. Here in this picture you see that the chamber is being cut after the shank's already been turned, and I've already cut the threads. And here's the barrel installed on the stripped receiver again after it's been chambered and indexed. Next, it's time to move on to making the stocks. I started off with a block of walnut, Claro walnut from Chico, California. These two little pictures here, you'll notice left and right sides. This is my stock carver. What I do is I take the original stock, it goes on one side, the block of wood goes on the other, and I simply trace it. Now, since this was a military carbine at one time, there's no cheek piece. So the way I was able to add a cheek piece to my final stock was just had a little block of wood that was carved in the shape of a cheek piece. I simply epoxied it in place and filled around it, and when I carved the stock out, that's how I got the cheek piece on the new stock. And you see here the new stock, as it's been rough cut, it needs a little bit of file work and some final shaping. And here's the stock now. It's still raw, but it's been fitted up to the receiver and the action's been inlet to it. Now comes the fun part. Here's where you can see the stock has already had the butt plate fitted. I cast this brass butt plate myself behind the shop in my own homemade green sand. However, I decided to make the stock a little bit on the fancy side. So what I've done is I've made a little shadow line around the cheek piece, and I'm doing wire inlay. You'll notice, as you can see, the figure and the fiddleback in the stock here at this point. The stock has been rubbed down a couple times with mineral spirits to help bring the stock out. Now on the off side of the stock, I decided to do two simple little scrolls that overlap that makes them look very intricate. This picture here, you can see where I've drawn it out with pencil and started the cutting. There's the first little bit of scroll done, and I'm getting ready to start cutting the second scroll. And here you can see the entire scroll and the little decorative dots that I made out of brass rod. It's pretty simple, but taken as a whole, looking at the whole thing, it looks really, really intricate. So I decided to go back and add a couple little heart-shaped pieces of inlay to the cheek piece side of the stock. Just prior to that, though, you can see the stock has already been rubbed down again with mineral spirits. I do this several times as I'm going along. This kind of gives me an idea for what the stock's going to look like when the finish is on it. The mineral spirits dry, and then the stock returns back to normal color. Here you can see the two heart-shaped inlays have been added to the stock, and you'll notice some of the fiddleback is starting to disappear. Well, seems like the mineral spirits start to dry up and everything starts to look plain again. Now, I'm turning my attention to the forearm. After the forearm was cut, and it's pretty simple, I made a schnabel top forend. I decided that using an escutcheon made out of brass in the shape of an acorn and drilling through the center of that and holding it in place with a brass screw would be the best bet. Then I decided, well, after the rifle's been built to this point, maybe I should test fire it now. So I sat down and made some of the ammunition. This ammunition is 5110 Winchester. Now, keeping in mind that 5110 Winchester didn't come out until 1900, this is not exactly a period-correct piece for a buffalo rifle. But 5110 Winchester brass is pretty readily available through Starline. Yeah, I decided to make a lot of test firing ammo. I kind of like to play with my guns as I'm building them sometimes. You can see in this picture here that the rifle's pretty plain at this point, except for some of the inlay on the buttstock. There's no sights, no scope been mounted yet, and the forearm is still pretty plain. This is the way I wanted to test fire the rifle. I just wanted to make sure it was going to function. In this other picture here, you can see how everything's starting to fit together. Still a little bit rough, but getting a little better. Still needs a little bit of work. At this point, I had to do some work to the rotary extractor. In this picture here, you can see I finally got the little inlays that I wanted in the forearm. Kind of simple, straightforward, and you can also tell where the scope has been mounted. This is a 32-inch scope that I bought from Leatherwood Hilux. It's 6 power magnification fixed. And in this picture here, the dovetails have been cut, and the scope mount front and rear have been installed. In these pictures here, you see the rifle before the final finish. At this point right here, I wanted to test fire the rifle, make sure the scope was going to zero. This is before the finish was put on the stock. The final finish was several coats of tung oil that have been buffed and polished out between each coat after allowing them to dry. The final top coat was 5 layers of boiled linseed oil, and in between each coat, it was rubbed with rotten stone, and then final coat of carnauba wax on top. So following this picture here, you're going to see some of the specs about this rifle. I'm pretty sure you may be interested in seeing it. So let's take this rifle and get it up here and do some shooting with it. This gun weighs almost 13 pounds. You see how stiff the recoil still is. Now this rifle, if you notice, the cartridges are so long, I had to make a relief cut in the top with a hammer for it to clear, because that's a little bit bigger cartridge than the gun was originally designed for. You see a little relief cut in the top of it right here. So I'll show you a quick close-up of how I load this thing. Open the breech, get the cartridge started, push it forward, close the breech. Now you're ready to fire another round. I love black powder. Come back in from the range. We're going to give this rifle a quick clean. We fired about 10 rounds through it without even cleaning between the shots. So what we're going to do is use a little bit of the Q20 Max. Got a little spray bottle of it, and one of the Q20 Max pins. And one of my favorite little pull-throughs, and this one has happened to be 50 caliber. So let's go ahead and start with the little Q Max pin. I'm going to pick the gun up, open the breech, make sure it's not loaded. Just going to take a Q-Max 20 pin, little Q-Max pin, go around here and give it a good little oiling, clean some of the crud out of the hammer and the breech area. And as I've said about these Q-Max pins before, get too much dirt and trash on the tip of them, you just simply pull it out, turn it over, stick it back in, you have a fresh, clean side to work with. Okay, let's unlimber the pull through here. I like these little pull throughs. They're a pretty handy field expedient way to clean your firearms without having to carry a bunch of cleaning rods and brushes. So what I'm going to do, I'll just take my rag and lay that right here. Spray a little bit of Q-Max on the end of it, by the bristles and all the way forward. Okay, let's open the breech up and feed this thing down the breech. Alright, when we're ready, just grab the end of it and pull it on through. Oh, look at all that crud coming out of there, huh? Q-Max really cuts that trash and crud out really well. Look at that. Let's run it through again. Okay, that's twice with just a pull through and some Q-Max. See how much crud we have left in there, if any at all. Wow. Alright, don't know how well you can see this in the video, but I'm going to show you down the bore. You can see all the black powder residue and all the crud and the trash that we pulled this thing out of here. That's on the first pass. And let's wipe this down a little bit. Look at all that crud and trash. Q-Max just loosens that stuff up. Look at all that trash that come out of that muzzle. We fired about 10 to 15 rounds without cleaning in between. Brought it back here to run some Q-Max and some the pull through into the barrel here. So let's see. Now, so the safety sallies don't have a fit. Notice that the breech is open. There's nothing in the chamber. We are going to point this towards the camera lens and see if you can see down the bore. Just as shiny as it can be. Normally when I shoot black powder cartridge rifles or muzzle loaders in particular, normally in the past it's always been a chore to have to boil clean water to pour down the breech to flush all the crap out of there, and then go ahead and swab it and clean it and then oil it afterwards. But with a good quality pull through and some Q-Max blue gun oil, looks like just a simple cleaning. Pull through twice from the breech to the muzzle. The reason when you go from breech to muzzle is if you pull from the muzzle to the breech, you end up pulling all the trash into your action. Start from the breech and pull towards the front, pull everything right out the muzzle. Get all the crud, all the trash, everything out. The good thing about the Q-Max line of oil products for guns, this stuff is really a great protective. Lubricates not only your moving parts, but it protects the external parts and cleans it as well. So just a little spritz will do you, not a problem. Gets rid of those pesky fingerprints that can rust and leave spots in your metal. Gives it a good protective finish. They make some Q-Max oil products that are really good for freshwater and saltwater applications as well. So if you do any kind of sea duck hunting like we do in this area, or if you're ever out hunting in mist, or even get caught out in the pouring rain, wiping your firearm down with Q-Max products is the way to go. Doesn't hurt the rifle stock either. In fact, this is an oil finish on the stock. Kind of a hefty gun to be wrestling around here. Weighs almost 13 pounds. There, look at that. Q-Max really brings that beautiful oil finish wood grain shine right out. Q-Max gun oil. And while you're at it, don't forget the Q-Max blue pins. Real handy, real convenient. No fuss, no muss. Comes with an aluminum body full of oil, and once you're done with it and it's out of oil, you just simply take it and recycle it. It's aluminum. So, this is our rifle that we built in GunWorks. Nice big 50 caliber buffalo gun. And cleaned it up with some really nice Q-Vax gun oil. Thanks for watching this latest video. Down East GunWorks is now shifting towards building custom rifles. If what you see in this video interests you, or if you have a special project in mind, contact the shop through jim@downeastgunworks.com. And a special thanks to the folks that contributed to this project.